Hello, hello, this is Fear Dragon coming at you with another StarCraft 2 netcast. Today we have a Protoss versus Terran from the Playhem hosted tournament by Homestar Heroes. So let's go ahead and introduce the players. This is the round of 16 game. And up here in the top right hand corner of GSL Whirlwind, we have the orange Protoss player. His name is VAPORego. And his opponent spawning in the bottom left-hand corner as the red Terran player. Can he overcome his Protoss opponents? His name is SwiftnSneaky. We might be seeing some clever little drops from SwiftnSneaky, as those would in fact always be very swift and very sneaky, unless you just completely forget about your drop, in which case it's not as swift. It just kind of happens. It's like, ah! And then all your stuff dies to the Warping of Zealots. But, I do expect that both of these players have made it to the round of 16, so they must have some good old skills going on. They did win their first round in the round of 32. I think it was the first round. But we're going to have to wait and see exactly what both of these players end up doing. I'm expecting a good game, and it looks like the first scouting probe is going to go ahead and poke in over here. He does make it in through that little gap, so you have to notice this isn't really a wall-off at this point. SwiftnSneaky really just kind of like, huh? Get out of here, probe. Get out of here. He does not want to deal with that probe tasing away at his poor little barracks SCV, who is actually still building away, and this probe actually does come back in, and it looks like he's out for blood once again, and SwiftnSneaky actually pulled quite a few probes during that last attack, and it looks like he now, oh my god, what is SwiftnSneaky so scared of? This, he must expect that this probe has some kind of EMP that will just shut down the SCV suit, as he is just out for blood with that. But you know, in the meanwhile, it looks like he is sending out his own SCV to get some scouting information done. He does not scout in the right direction immediately, but we do see VAPORego not really laying down the cheese or anything at this point. Does have 4 guys in gas, so that is going to allow him to get exactly as much gas as if he had 3. A little bit of a mistake there, but no worries. Looks like a little bit of Chrono Boost being saved up as well. Now just being spent on that Nexus. Might actually just have been a bit of a safety play, and may not have wanted to spend it until he was certain what his opponent was doing. But we do see that there is going to be that command center being thrown down for SwiftnSneaky. So an economic play indeed coming from SwiftnSneaky. Meanwhile, VAPORego does have that second gateway on the way, so that does mean he's going to have the opportunity to put on a little bit of pressure. We're going to have to wait and see. It looks like he might want to throw down another building. We do see 150 minerals now being gathered up. And where did he actually end up spending that? It looks like it was on the Stalker. Meanwhile, we're just going to see another pylon going down. Very important to stay unsupply blocked. But SwiftnSneaky does scout around with this SCV. He does see that second gateway if he's paying attention, so he should know, hey, my opponent is not just doing some kind of one gateway expand. He's probably going to have to put on some kind of pressure, which is just going to be economically behind. It's going to be wise for SwiftnSneaky to throw down a bunker sometime in the near future, just to prepare for the incoming potential of aggression. It looks like this SCV is still angry as hell at this probe. I mean, this probe might have stolen the minerals, but honestly, like, I don't think that warrants chasing it across the entire map, pulling additional SCVs, a couple of his friends to try and gang up on that poor little probe, and the Stalker just kind of saying, ah, you're an SCV. You don't attack, you're not an army unit. It just kind of takes him out with a little bit of micro. Doesn't even really need the micro. The shields will in fact regenerate pretty freaking fast, so not really an issue. But we do see VAPORego still has not thrown down. Oh, actually, we do see a third gateway, so definitely going to be putting on some aggression. And VAPORego is throwing down that Nexus, so not going to be an all-in by any means, but he does need to put on a little bit of pressure if he wants to keep up with his opponent, as that command center is finished up now. He does have the double muling now enabled. It is not a cheat. It is in fact just a part of the game to be able to throw down 2 mules at a time. So what that means is SwiftnSneaky is going to have to do some pressure once again. As I've said before, with these 3 gateways, he invested in getting those rather than this Nexus up earlier. That is going to put him a little bit behind on that worker count if SwiftnSneaky does continue to produce 2 SCVs at a time, as it looks like he is in fact doing. In addition to those mules, he's definitely going to be looking to be in a good position, but it doesn't look like VAPORego is getting ready to move out exactly just quite yet. Maybe with this next warp and run, I really hope so, as honestly, otherwise it's kind of like you invest in something without really doing anything with it. It's like buying a bunch of cookies but never eating them, and then by the time you do and get around to eating them, like 3 weeks later, they're all stale, and it's like, oh, this isn't good at all. Like, this army is too small to do anything with, or these cookies are too stale. But if he goes and just eats the cookies right now, they're going to be warm and fresh. They just came out of the oven, and he's going to be able to do some good damage and kind of force SwiftnSneaky to pull some SCVs to do that defense. Could have forced him to throw down a couple bunkers, as it looks like SwiftnSneaky actually got away without making a single bunker. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the worker count. We do see SwiftnSneaky up to 36 SCVs. You might be thinking, hey, it's only like a 4 or 5 SCV or worker lead. That's not that big of a deal, but you have to remember that the Protoss player does have that Chrono Boost. He does want to be using that Chrono Boost on those workers, so he actually should be a little bit ahead in that worker count, especially considering that the Terran player does have those mules. We're going to have to wait and see. VAPORego is getting a fairly substantial force, and, you know, if he does decide to push and there are no bunkers, he still might be able to break this front, but we're going to have to wait and see. It is a very, very big map. GSL Whirlwind has an insane walk distance, especially with the cross spawn position. Let's take a look at this long, long journey across the map. Oh my god, this is actually insane. It takes like a couple of full things around my mouse pad, and I have a pretty big mouse pad, just to get across the map. But anyways, that's enough of that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the decisions that these players are making outside of that. We do see a Twilight Council going down for VAPORego, so we might be seeing some kind of interesting play. We might be seeing Charge. Yeah, there is Charge. Oftentimes we don't see Blink that often in this game, or sorry, in this matchup, as it is a little bit harder to utilize properly, but we do sometimes see it more defensively. Unfortunately for VAPORego, he does not want to be defensive in this situation. As I kept saying before, he wants to be a little bit more aggressive, but it looks like instead SwiftnSneaky is seizing a little bit of map control. He might be just going to look to do a little bit of poking, but you have to remember there are a ton of sentries over at the base of VAPORego, so we're going to have to wait and see if the force fields are going to trap this army in. Does SwiftnSneaky just send up one Marine? It's a very important play and a very important tactic that a lot of Terran players have realized they can start doing just to check the ramp. No, he's going to move up with his entire army. He could get force fielded. There are 2 force fields that do go down. A couple of Terran units do get attacked, or sorry, force fielded in, but not too many. Good control by SwiftnSneaky. Not the greatest reaction time by VAPORego, but there is another good force field. 2 good force fields. Oh, it does lose a couple more of those Terran units. He has to be very careful. He's dancing with death over here, and luckily for him, he has not lost his entire army at this point in time, but he has to be so careful. I don't agree with this poking, as he's really not accomplishing too much, just target firing down a couple of these zealots and maybe forcing his opponent to maybe do a little bit more micro. And we do see now the full committal, just trying to take out those sentries. Does manage to get one, but really not worth it. A very interesting decision from SwiftnSneaky. I think he was in a great economic position and good position with his army to just sit back, but no, decide he really wanted to put on that aggression. So unfortunately did end up losing that entire army. But on the other hand, you still have to remember he is still looking to be in a fairly decent economic position. Actually, you know, I have to say that in terms of economy, both of these players have caught up quite a bit, but at the same time, you have to remember SwiftnSneaky has invested a lot of that economy already into this massive number of barracks. Wow, that's a lot of barracks, especially each one of these with a reactor or a tech lab. So this is going to be some insane unit production. We can already see that there is an obscene number of units already made after losing his entire army. So we're going to have to see how much damage they can do. We can see that already in the supply count. SwiftnSneaky taking a bit of a lead over there. We do see a 3rd Nexus going down from VAPORego. He does not know about his opponent's move out across the map, but he does have quite a few gateways. So now up to 8 gateways. Wow, and with that charge already finished and Blink researching, getting that +2 weapons upgrade. Let's actually go ahead and take a look. Looks like he already has +1 weapons upgrade. And meanwhile, it looks like SwiftnSneaky also keeping in touch with those upgrades. Does have his +1 done already as well, and getting that +1 armor, infantry armor. But he is actually going to get a nice old cancel on that third, and now we do see VAPORego moving out. He's going to see if he can do some damage, but no, does not like that positioning on the ramp with his stalkers in front. If Blink was done, he could have blinked those back. Those charge zelts could have started eating those Terran Marines and Marauders apart, but there are some not so great force fields. He does get a couple of those Terran units, but honestly, with how heavy his army is, with those zealots, those force fields really just working against him in this situation. And now SwiftnSneaky really realizing he sees the moment, get rid of a couple more of these zealots, a couple more force fields going down, stopping any of the remaining Terran army from retreating, and it looks like the Terran army is going to get cleaned up at this point in time. Only stalkers and sentries left, but that is going to be enough to clean up the remaining Marauders of SwiftnSneaky, and it looks like these Marauders just target firing down those sentries. A very nice play from SwiftnSneaky indeed, as target firing down those sentries will stop VAPORego from being able to utilize that sentry energy, and if he does decide to rewarp those in, that is going to take away from this High Templar count that we do see he is now going for. He does not have Storm starting to research, now just getting and chrono boosting it out. A very nice decision, but unfortunately for him, he's not going to be able to put on any kind of aggression, and losing those sentries is a big blow, especially when you have those very zealot-centric armies, as it looks like he has been favoring, and now he does now have a pretty substantial stalker count in comparison to a zealot count. But going back to that barracks aggression and just production that I was talking about before that SwiftnSneaky has, we saw, look at this insane barracks production again. Wow, that's just obscene. He already has another army to barrel down at his opponent, but all the High Templars are out. Psionic Storm is going to be finished in about 25 seconds. Can he hold off until then? He has a couple more sentries. He can force through the ramp to delay just a little bit, but the Terran army is picking off so many of these units. Archon's being forced to morph. Are there any more High Templar left? No, there are not. And the Archon is only just one is going to finish. He's going to get immediately picked up. The force fields go down a little bit late, letting the Terran too far off the ramp. Manages to pick off the entire army of the Protoss ball, and now the Terran ball is moving into the natural expansion of VAPORego. The pros being pulled, they're massacred instantly, and there's the GG from VAPORego. A very well played game indeed. Unfortunately for VAPORego, I feel like he really just let SwiftnSneaky power up on that economy, then spend that economy on getting this massive barracks count. And I have to stress, normally, you know, you might see a Terran player with 6 barracks, not even, you know, an add-on on every single one of those, but really being able to get an, you know, 4 reactors and 4 tech labs on all of these barracks and be able to produce out of them constantly. You're allowing your opponent to really just mass up a huge number of units so quickly. So even though he was trading relatively efficiently in those previous engagements, plus or minus some okay-ish force fields over at this ramp over here, unfortunately SwiftnSneaky was able to just power up on that macro and decimate his opponent. So that's going to be it for this. Congratulations to SwiftnSneaky. He was in fact very swift and kind of, I wouldn't actually say he was all that sneaky, considering he kind of just barreled down the front of VAPORego, but swift he was with that unit production. So congratulations to him. He's going to be moving on to the round of 8. And yeah, thank you so much for watching the video. Please subscribe if you enjoyed my commentary in any capacity whatsoever. Also subscribe to my Twitch channel. That's twitch.tv/FearDragon64. My Twitter is twitter.com/FearDragon64. You can send any replays you want casted to FearDragon64@gmail.com. FearDragon64 is the key word in all of these things. Also tune in for the Amazon intern versus full-timer show match going on Friday at 5:30 Pacific time, July 13th. This has been Fear Dragon, and I'll see you guys next